Canon has finally released the version 2.0 firmware for the Canon 7D. This brings the 7D up to the same audio control levels as the T3i and the 60D. Now you can adjust the volume levels in the camera instead of having to rely on the AGC, which causes a lot of noise in your audio. So let's take a look at how easy it is to install the new firmware on the Canon 7D. Download the firmware from Canon's website and install it on the main directory of the CF card. Put that in your camera and hit the menu button, and you'll see right now that I'm running version firmware 1.2.5. Hit the set button and scroll over to OK. Hit the set button again, and that should take you to the firmware load page. You'll see that there is in fact a new version on the CF card. Hit set, scroll over, hit OK again, and it'll start the loading process. This actually took a roughly 5 minutes to install, but I have this running at 10x so that you don't have to bear through the long process. Be sure that you have a very well charged battery that's fresh, or have your camera plugged in somewhere so that your battery doesn't die and turn your camera into a brick. That would be a bad thing. Now that you've got the firmware installed on your Canon 7D, let's take a look at how it performs in burst mode. First, let's start with raw photos. As you can see, the camera is in burst mode and it's set to take raw photos. So let's see how well the new buffer handling performs. All right, let's go ahead and switch it over to large JPEG and turn the raw mode off and see how well the burst mode performs with large JPEG. As you can see, the burst mode is greatly improved. If you're shooting in large JPEG format, you pretty much don't have to worry about running out of buffer. You can simply hold it down and you get the nice chainsaw action of 8 frames a second with the 7D. If you're shooting in raw mode, it still does kind of taper off after a while, but it does last quite a long time. To get to the new sound recording feature, hit the menu button and scroll over to the 4th menu. Scroll down to sound recording and hit the set button. You'll see it's set to auto right now. So let's scroll over to manual and hit set. And now we can adjust the levels of the recording coming into the camera with either the little thumb wheel or this little nubbin right here. So whichever way you prefer, you can use that to turn up or down the input volume. Otherwise, it's pretty much similar to the rest of Canon's lineup. Taking a closer look at the audio controls on the Canon 7D, it does add quite a bit of functionality when you want to control the audio inputs to the camera or use an external amplifier so you don't have to use the camera's noisy gain. But you still have no way of monitoring audio with the 7D. With the T2i, at least you have Magic Lantern firmware that you can install that gives you the ability to use an adapter like the Syscom cable or to make your own adapter so that you can monitor the audio being recorded at the camera. Now with the 7D, you still only have the ability to set the volume levels to the input. You don't have the ability to monitor the audio unless you monitor it before it reaches the camera. The new functionality that they've added to the playback mode is kind of handy. It's nice to be able to rate your images when you're in between shoots. That means you can star some of the images and it's easier to find them in DPP if you're going back through your images on your computer after you're done shooting. The resizing and rotation options, they're okay in camera, but it seems like you would want to do that on your computer as opposed to in camera. If you don't have a computer with you and you really need to rotate that image or resize it for a blog or a post or something like that, I could see where that function could come in handy. Overall, people aren't going to be clamoring for these features, but it's a nice little extra option to have. If you're already a Canon 7D owner, the new features added to the camera are probably pretty welcome to you. Now you have control over the audio input levels, and that makes it a little bit nicer to use the camera if you're filming, especially if you want to try and record audio directly into the camera. On the other side though, if you are in the market for a camera and you don't already own the 7D, then it's a lot less attractive of a camera than some of the other cameras in Canon's lineup. The T2i can have Magic Lantern firmware installed in it, which gives it the ability to have audio level meters on screen, as well as the ability to monitor the audio. And now with some of the features that have been added by Magic Lantern, you don't actually have to worry about your monitor blinking out. The reason in the past to go with the 7D was if you wanted extreme burst mode of 8 frames per second, and if you wanted to have a higher resolution HDMI out. Well, now the T4i offers that as well. It has a higher resolution HDMI out, so you can use that with a field monitor. That was what made the 7D reasonably attractive. Its build quality is better than the T2i, but for a little bit extra, you can get a used 5D Mark II. I think they're running between $1,600 and $1,400 for the body only, and that's also fairly ruggedized and fits into the same category of build as the 7D. Plus, you can install Magic Lantern firmware on the 5D Mark II, making it a lot more attractive. You get audio level meters, and you get all the other special features that are added by that firmware. If Canon had gone a little bit further and added the ability to monitor audio from the camera, or at least put some on-screen displays of the audio levels, I think that would have made the 7D a lot better buy. But now it kind of feels like too little too late. Now that these features are available, I probably will spend a little bit more time using the 7D to record video, but I have several T2i's as well as the 5D Mark III, so the 7D will probably just remain a good camera if I need to shoot burst mode sports type stuff, or if I want to turn my 70 to 200 millimeter lens into something that has the reach of a 360 millimeter lens. That's really handy, but otherwise, I don't know, Canon. I think you are failing at this whole upgrading your camera firmware thing. You could do a lot better than what you're giving us, but you choose not to because you don't want to reduce the sales of your other cameras. It's irritating, but that's my opinion on it. If you guys disagree, I'd love to hear your input and opinions. You can post them below in the crotch bar area. Also have links to where you can download the firmware, along with a full written review of the new firmware update over at DSLRFilmNoob.com. As always, thanks for watching, and if you like this content, please subscribe.